got this, Ellen. Ah, this would be interesting.
Alright, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and start.
Okay. What do you consider as art?
The first image that pops up in your head might be some good paintings created by artists from a long time ago, like Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci and Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. Or you could think of designs of products that we use in our daily lives, like fashion design, furniture design, and all of the furniture here and this building is some kind of artwork by someone. But there are a variety of forms of art, which sometimes confuses us whether this should be considered as art because it seems so simple or obscure. Since I was once an art student, I had this question for a long time. And today I'm going to tell you what kinds of art have been existed in human history and how I think about what the boundary of art is.
Next slide, please.
In ancient times, people drew their daily lives in caves such as the animals they hunt or drawings of themselves. The purpose of their art was not to just watch and enjoy them, but for their ritual activity. They believed that if they draw figures of animals on the wall of the cave and shoot an arrow or spear, it will steal the soul away from the animal so they can catch them easily. According to the Art Dictionary by Korean Dictionary Research History, it can be claimed that cave arts are for ritual purpose because firstly, those paintings are usually located at the deepest parts of the cave. And secondly, a lot of figures are duplicated and doesn't seem to have any decorative purpose. Thirdly, there are no depiction of nature and only animals that can be eaten are drawn. Fourth, in the paintings, most of the animals are big and fat. Lastly, all the depiction of human is hunter or shaman. Their arts developed to communicate with others and became symbolic. According to Prehistoric Arts and Crafts by Ackerman in 2018, cave art is extremely impressive evidence for human symbolic behavior. They also utilize their arts to praise gods or spirits. There are no personal thoughts in it or desire to be artistic, but it still has artistic values. Though the purpose of the cave art is not centered in one's expression, it is impossible to hide one's personality in arts because each individual sees things differently and everyone has different perspectives than others, and it shows when drawing things.
Next slide, please.
In Mid Ages, we can see a lot of portraits of nobles and depiction of gods. According to the book named Leonardo da Vinci, Who Broke the Questions of Creation by Sung Dong-ho, 2002, at that time there were at least one church in every town, which is similar to right now too. When building a church, architecture was an important part, but decorating inside and outside of the building was also considered important. It was a time before lightning rod was invented, and since churches were built to be as nearest to the sky as possible so they can be near to God, it was frequently struck by lightning, which needed repairment every time it happens. It enabled artists to have more chances to express their art. At first, they were described symbolic, but as time went by, they began to describe more stories in it. With all the hard works put into church, humans evolved with it too. In the early 13th century, the situation changed rapidly with the establishment of universities throughout Europe and the spread of painting. Although the church still hired many artists, a new class of emerging merchants who made big profits from commerce and trade appeared as new bankers. This trend was even faster as the typography evolved. In the past, only nobles could own and read books, but books have become common to everyone. Therefore, it made hard to see Bible's messages too heavy or to misinterpret them according to their own deceit. There was a rational thinking that anyone could nod their head into. The age of reason and science began to stretch. Though it was only the beginning, they escaped from the shadows of the Middle Ages. It is around this time that individualism and self-consciousness began to retreat. However, not all respect and faith in the churches were thrown out, and the Renaissance thought reason was at best a gift from God, and science was a glimpse of the creation will of the universe and of all things. But still, it is a remarkable development that man did not lean on any other absolute authority, and they started to see with their own eyes, touch with their own hands, and began to strive as thoughts look. In conclusion, the purpose of the art around this time was to record beauty and show respect to what artists believed at the time. Most of the artists painted under the power of God, under the power of church. The personality they can show through their art was restricted, but that was also the time people started to think of themselves as independent beings and expressed it as artists. Now, modern artists seem to focus more on expressing their ideas. Even some artists put an object that is used in every day and makes it into their artworks by just simply giving a meaning to them. For example, Duchamp made this artwork named Fountain. It is simply a toilet with a name on it, and the name on it isn't even the name of the artist. It was the name of the person who made the toilet. He claimed that the art depends on the message and the spirits of the artist, and it should not be judged just by crafts put into it. It shook the entire art society at that time. According to Monthly Art by Junyi Lee 2000, Duchamp had mentioned that when the urinal is in the toilet, it is faithful to its role as a urinal, but if it is placed on the base with the artist's signature written on it in the space of the exhibition hall, it looks different and it can be accepted as a work of art. According to Naval Knowledge Encyclopedia, Duchamp claimed that Richard Mutt's work was rejected at an exhibition, which was the exhibition that was supposed to allow people to exhibit their artwork just by paying only $6. He asserted what is important about the fact that he chose the toilet as an object. Oh, he asserted what is important about the fact that he chose the toilet as an object is that he gave the toilet a new name, Fountain, and removed the usual values it had and created a new concept and identity in a new context. Through this argument, he created a new genre of conceptual art. Because of such artists intends to break the wall of limit of art. There are a lot of forms of art.
Next slide, please.
I think everything should be considered as art, though artists seem to put less effort into it. Because it might not give us the impression of beauty, but it allows us to consider everyday objects differently, and that is one of the purposes of art. So my conclusion about thinking of this question is that art has no limit. Okay.